Personally, I have nothing against Tara Babcock. Generally, I like her and enjoy seeing her wear blindfolds. But for crying out loud, why would you bring this up? This isn't the only instance I know. There are liberals screaming about how this thing should be accepted into society.
So, do you have any problem? Would you think it would be weird if one of your friends was having sex with their sister? Homosexual?
I hate the idea, but if both are happy with it and they don't have any kids, then like, sure, I don't see a huge problem with it.
So you think incest marriage is okay? Nothing weird about that?
No, it's super weird, but if it's not hurting anybody, then I don't care.
Like, the thing about incest is that if the woman were to become pregnant, that there's severe birth defects to the child. So
let's say they're not going to have children, though.
Well,
so
it could still happen.
They're not going to have children. They're having a consensual incestuous relationship. So you think that's disgusting?
Well, that's fine. If they're not going to have kids, there's no reason for me to judge them.
So there's nothing wrong with a brother and a sister having sexual relations with each other?
Not if they're not going to have kids.
Totally normal?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the level we're at. I wonder what liberal feminists from the 1960s would say if they saw this. But hey, let's just get to it. I can't wait to see some pro-incest points and wonder why they should be genuine.
Guys, this is a topic I've been wanting to tackle for a while. I'm actually very excited about it because I think it's something that a lot of people won't delve into. When I made my popular opinions video, unpopular opinions, I mean, someone mentioned in the comments that they don't think that incest is that bad. And that's something that I've always thought and something that I was saving for my second video about unpopular opinions.
Are you serious? Incest isn't that bad. Let me state the obvious reason why incest is bad. People don't want retarded kids.
Mohsin has a rare genetic disease which is gradually destroying his body. He was born with it because his mother and father are first cousins. More than half of British Pakistanis marry their first cousins. Tonight on Dispatches, the tragic consequences of a cultural practice that is devastating children's lives.
Here we are. What is incest? Asked no one ever, but just in case, if someone doesn't know, it's basically having a romantic or sexual relationship with someone in your bloodline. A lot of people cut it off at first cousin. Some people think that dating a first cousin is also gross.
Some people, basically everyone, sees dating a first cousin is bad. I personally don't know anyone who would screw their third cousin, let alone their first one.
You get the drill. I want to ask you guys to please try to put aside your visceral reactions to the topic. The whole like, ew, oh my god, that's so gross, that's disgusting. And try to think about this logically and rationally.
I can't really do that because it's pretty disgusting.
Using facts. As you guys know, it's a hobby of mine to tackle theoretical and philosophical topics. And you guys also know I like to think of myself as someone who's more rational than emotional. I try to understand why I do things and why I feel certain ways, so that I can harness my emotions and use them for good, rather than riding them around like a roller coaster with no control. I find that to be a better way to live my life for me personally, and I challenge you guys to try to do the same, if not just for the remainder of this video. As always, everything here is just my opinions and how I see things, and I would love to hear how you guys see things. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. And obviously you can do whatever you want, but if you feel like just like hating me, downvoting the video, saying some rude shit, and then leaving, you can totally do that, but I would prefer if we actually had a conversation where you brought up points and told me why I'm wrong instead. Use your words and your mind.
Kind of the reason why I'm making this video. I will be providing the facts.
Okay, so let's first talk about why most people think that incest is fucking disgusting. First off, our biology tells us not to like people who are in our immediate relation. There's actually like certain smells and pheromones that we give off within our bloodline that kind of repulses us. And while that doesn't always work, there's a good reason for that. One of the main arguments as to why incest is completely wrong is because you have a much higher than normal rate of child deformities, retardation, basically just birth defects in general.
Hallelujah. Thank you for acknowledging the main reason why incest is in fact not wincest.
Obviously, if I was to theorize why this is the case, I would say that the mixing of different genes is just healthier. For instance, animals and insects that reproduce asexually are actually just replicating their own DNA onto their offspring, so it's basically like a copy of themselves. And while that's pretty cool, in doing so, they open themselves up to a lot of different issues. If there are any flaws in the genes, they're not going to be improved in the next generation, less likely to survive diseases, things like that. Honestly, science is not my field of expertise, and I haven't read much into this, but I would surmise that the closer you get to that asexual reproduction, aka reproducing with someone who has similar genes to you, the closer you get to that issue.
Well, why the hell on earth are you saying that incest isn't bad then?
I feel the need to say that I have never been attracted to anyone in my family. I have no agenda with this video other than to just have a discussion with you guys and tell you my opinions, because they're very different from the norm.
Not to seem antagonizing, but only two types of people defend incest. They're either a product of incest or they engage in it themselves.
So what if this unholy, incestuous relationship doesn't bear children? For instance, it's a homosexual relationship, or one of the parties or both don't want to have kids or can't have kids. Then is it okay? Most people would say it's not.
Well, they're correct. It's not right. The first point I want to make is that homosexuals cannot have children regardless of the situation. But for example, a guy having sex with his mom or his sister, well, have you ever heard of accidental pregnancies? I don't think it will lead to something good.
Are you finished, sweetheart? Wait. Are you... What am I seeing?
Hey, Daddy, you don't understand what's going on here.
I don't think Charlie Sheen would understand what's going on here.
Look, I love Todd, and we're gonna get married, and we're gonna have a great life together. And yes, I've had sex with Chad from time to time. It's what good-looking people do. They have sex with other good-looking people, you know? Just so happens that this one particular good-looking person is my little brother.
Right? But why is that? Now let's think about some reasons why it wouldn't be okay. One of the reasons is a power dichotomy. Think about a mother and a child, or a father and a child. When you're raising a child and you're an authority figure, and then in adulthood you guys end up dating, there can be huge power dynamics there that make it very unhealthy for the child.
That's also true. Another reason why incest is so bad. So, the audience is probably wondering, why is she contradicting herself? Well, things go downhill from here.
But honestly, when it comes to like cousins or long-lost brothers and sisters who meet up one day and fall in love, I don't see any problem with that. If they're being completely conscientious about all of the problems they could cause if they have children, and they're taking steps to protect against that, then honestly it's really no different than a couple where one of the people has some gene that they will surely pass on to their offspring that's very bad, so they just abstain from having kids.
All right, kids, go on outside.
What happened?
I'll call you when it's done.
Took a hearing.
Listen, just remember that you can always visit me on Sundays and bring me lots of books.
I feel like this really needs to be explained further. Incest is very damaging to a person's psyche and mental health. It can often lead to a person being mentally confused about their relationship with their family. It also leads to people being unable to have normal relationships with other people, PTSD, eating disorders, and issues with dissociation. I cannot believe you aren't bringing up this.
I honestly believe that there are people out there that just aren't affected by our biology. They aren't disgusted by the idea of having sex with someone that they grew up with.
Yeah, crazy people. I have no problem with being kinky, which, as you know, I like to see on you. But there's a point where kinky becomes gross.
Which is another point I'd like to make. Often when someone says, no, he's like a brother to me, or no, she's like a sister to me, that usually means that you've been in contact with them when you were younger and kind of grew up with them, or you've divulged so much about yourself that there's no mystery left, and then that person can't see you as anything more than a brother or sister or family member anymore, because it's like you know them too well. If that kind of bond forms before a romantic relationship forms, it can often be hard for you to see someone in a sexual way.
First of all, there is an enormous difference between like a sibling and a sibling. As a literal sibling, you are related, and being a figurative sibling, you aren't. If the two people slept together, it wouldn't be bad because they don't share blood. Second of all, how does this argument go in your favor? People say you're like a sibling because they don't want anything more than just being something like siblings. You know your argument is self-defeating.
But the fact that society sees these people in seemingly healthy relationships and just immediately judges them, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think something psychologically damaging leads to healthy relationships. I mean, imagine this. Let's say a mom and her son are at home, and then the mom says, "Hey kiddo, we're gonna go shopping later on today. We have to buy some more clothing and some more food. But first, let's just go do it in the shower. And then after they do some really freaky shit in the shower, they just get dressed and say, whew, okay, son, look, let's get the car and let's get going. Oh my god, what? This is so disturbing. What the hell is wrong with me?
Just because you don't think it's right or it's not right in your culture or you were raised differently doesn't mean it's inherently wrong.
Only a few cultures limit incest to cousins, but basically everyone and every culture sees incest as really bad. I mean, even animals do. Just like I mentioned, there are reasons for it.
Even if our very biology is telling us not to do it, it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. We have many biological and instinctual properties that we don't need anymore or use anymore. In my opinion, jealousy is one of them, as we don't need to protect what's ours in a tribe and no one's out to get us.
That most definitely is not true. I mean, there still are wars and other similar stuff. Also, jealousy is an emotion. You can't really erase that.
But there are many others as well. Shit, we even have organs we don't need. So is it wrong to get rid of your tonsils or your appendix? Even if it's gonna kill you because it's part of our natural biology?
Oh yeah, that's a lovely argument. Let's chop off every body part and be like a RoboCop because we don't need our body.
There are plenty of famous guys who have sex with fangirls. Why is that not looked down upon just as much as the woman who has sex with her son?
Tara, you just said why parents shouldn't screw their children 4 minutes ago.
One of the reasons is a power dichotomy. Think about a mother and a child or a father and a child. When you're raising a child and you're an authority figure, and then in adulthood you guys end up dating, there can be huge power dynamics there that make it very unhealthy for the child. It could look as though, and it can even be so, that the parent is actually coercing the child into this relationship.
One of the reasons is a power dichotomy.
Why are you defending it now? And to answer your question, a famous person is not related to a fangirl. That's why one is more hated than the other.
Is it happening? You can't tell for sure unless you're like actually a part of the situation, so might as well not judge. And try to open your mind to new ideas from other people who grew up differently than you.
So you're saying we should try incest. And she claims she's not attracted to people in her family.
And there are stories of brothers and sisters who have never met in their entire lives coming together and falling in love. Is that wrong?
Yes.
They didn't have to change each other's diapers or see each other in their most vulnerable moments. And even if they did, who's to say that that's wrong?
Except they're related. That's why it's wrong.
That might make the bond for some people even stronger. So I challenge you guys to, in the comments, tell me why it's not okay to involve yourself in an incestuous relationship with someone you're not having a child with, that isn't manipulating you to do so, and you're both consenting adults. Why? Just because society tells you it's weird? Just because some people have the preference not to do it? Most people have the preference not to do it? What does that matter? Live your life the way that works for you, how you see fit, and what ultimately makes you the happiest. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, who gives a shit? I fully accept all of the hate that is going to be thrown at me by people who immediately judge rather than actually listening and analyzing, and all of those who just immediately hate me because of the way I look.
Well, rewind the video to the beginning and you'll hear the reasons why. But in any case, that is the entire video. Now, if you're experiencing any weird Game of Thrones thoughts, don't panic. This is just your brain trying to make sense of what you just saw. I mean, Tara makes better videos now, but yeah, that was just really messed up.